we are integral in the sense that what we call ourselves is made of a physical aspect, literally your body as you feel it, your bones, your muscles, and how you move through space, a chemical aspect, which is the realm that covers nutrition and also pharmacology. It's all the chemical reactions that take place in your body. A psychological aspect, which includes your thoughts and your feelings. And also, we are energetic or spiritual beings. There is a spiritual aspect which relates to our biggest connection, whether to humanity or other people or the earth. And we are made of energy. Everything is energy. So that's all part of this aspect. And then finally, we live in an environment. And this creates 5 aspects, 5 zones, if you like, of who we are and how to be fully healthy and fully engaged and present in life. We need that connection to life, which at its rawest is sexual attraction. So we are sexual beings. We love the pleasures of the senses. We are sensual beings. We are physical beings, emotional and relational beings, intellectual beings, and also spiritual beings. The Greeks knew this, and our Western culture comes from the Enlightenment of the Greeks. And they related each of these zones to the elements: fire, earth, air, water, and ether. And this is not just an invention. This is who we are. The physical body is split into 5 cavities. There's the pelvic cavity that relates to our sexual and reproductive organs. There's the abdominal cavity where we process the energy present in food, which then drives our body. It's our digestive system. It's our sort of physical being in the world. The thoracic cavity, which includes the heart and the lungs, and is all about circulation, taking in oxygen, giving off carbon dioxide, breathing, exchanging nutrients through the veins and the arteries pumped by the blood. Then there's the cranial cavity, which contains our brain, which keeps us adapting and knowing where we are and what's happening, processing information, processing everything that comes in through our senses. And then finally, there is the vertebral or the dorsal cavity, which contains the higher brain centers, such as the pineal and the spinal cord. And it connects all the other cavities. So this is our, if you like, spiritual zone. It's our deepest level of connection to everything. We are connected through the very simple fact that everything is energy. And way back in the time of Einstein, there were heated debates about the nature of matter, the nature of stuff. And we now understand that we are made out of atoms. So our cells are made out of molecules, which are made out of atoms, which are made out of subatomic particles, such as protons, neutrons, and electrons. And the electrons whiz around the protons and the neutrons within an atom. But most of what's in an atom is empty space. In fact, if protons, neutrons, and electrons were real stuff, your entire body would fit onto a postage stamp. But now we understand that those protons, neutrons, and electrons are made out of quarks, even smaller subatomic particles. And if quarks were real stuff, then the entire stuff of your body would fit onto a postage pin head. It's that small. Now, one of the true geniuses of our times was Albert Einstein. He was fascinated in the nature of light, and he completely blew away so many of the fundamental assumed foundations of modern physics. And through his realizations and deep contemplations, he came up with the equation E equals mc squared. E is energy, m is mass, or matter, if you like, and c is the speed of light. the speed of light squared. And he, in essence, was proposing that if you took one particle, one bit of matter, and you sent it down a track at the speed of light, and it crashed into another piece of matter, also traveling at the speed of light, when they crashed at the speed of light squared, that matter would turn into energy. And that is exactly what was found when finally we had particle accelerators. Here's the world's largest accelerator, the Hadron Collider, which can crash photons into each other at vast speeds. And what I find interesting is that this piece of equipment that costs 13.5 billion, and some physicists maintain there are 12 different dimensions and so on. It itself is actually built out of front, back, left, right, up, down, and center. And that's how we experience the world, in that way, in those dimensions, which actually relates to the cube. Now, we therefore have two things going on. One is everything is energy, but that energy takes the form of matter, of stuff. And all the deep philosophers, for example, Buddhism, talk about these two aspects. On the one hand, the pure space. And when the Greeks were talking about fire, earth, air, and water, the fifth element was ether, or space, the space in which everything is. That pure consciousness that we all have, and we don't know where it came from, and we don't know how to lose it. It is just the space in which all our experience happens. And within Buddhism, that is called the absolute. It never changes. It's completely at peace. And then in our field of consciousness occurs all the stuff of life, which in Buddhism is called the relative. We're talking here about life and death, and men and women, and rich and poor, and health and disease, and all the stuff of the world that changes. And the goal of the true mysticism embedded within so many profound philosophers is to attain a full state of absolute health in which one is simultaneously aware that nothing changes, aware of that which is always the same, namely that pure consciousness, the absolute. And also aware and enjoying the endless change, the endless dance, the endless play of the energy that manifests in life in one form or another. It's a bit like having one eye looking out and one eye looking in. And something happens when a state of awareness is achieved, which has both of these aspects happening. And for example, in Taoism, this is symbolized by Yin and Yang. And in the Mayan traditions, by the Hunabku. And in the Indian tradition, this is called the Sri Yantra, where there are two forces. One is the upward force, you see triangles going up, and the other is the downward force, you see triangles going down. One is the energy towards transcendence, towards that unattached consciousness, and the other is the energy into life, into matter, into the relative, and the way that energy manifests in the world. And that process of attaining this ultimate fusion is called Tantra, a word that is very misunderstood, often with connotations of wild and amazing sex, which of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But really, the process of these philosophers, of the tantric traditions, is to transmute that energy for life into transcendence, to be able to achieve a more enlightened level of consciousness. Now, given that our health depends on being fully functioning across all these different zones, one thing you can do for yourself is to take my connection quotient quiz. So this isn't an IQ test measuring your intelligence or an EQ test measuring your emotional intelligence, but a CQ test. And when you take this test, you can see which is your strongest zone and which is your weakest zone. And then that gives you something to work with. And I've explained these concepts in my book, The Chemistry of Connection. Now, the Dalai Lama said that all human beings have two fundamental desires, and one is to be happy and the other is to be free of pain. And he says that his daily meditation as he interacts with people is to remember that his desire to be happy and free of pain is of no greater or lesser importance than that of the people that he meets. So here we are in the 21st century with all our technological advances. Are we happy? Are we healthy? In the time that I've been interested in health since the late 1970s, I've watched cancer incidence increase from what was then around 1 in 11 people getting cancer, much of which was lung cancer due to smoking, to the point now where more than 1 in 3 people during their life will be diagnosed with cancer. We have 1 in 6 dying too young from heart attacks or strokes, and 1 in 6 over 40 have diabetes. I was recently in Dubai in a school where out of 1,000 teenagers, already 160 had diabetes. 1 in 4 live their last 30 years with arthritic pain. 1 in 3 people over 70 have impaired memory. 1 in 4 over 80 have Alzheimer's, which is a preventable disease. And 1 in 3 people are obese and 1 in 2 are overweight by the age of 50. So are we happy? The statistic that really got my attention is the fact that there are now more violent deaths recorded each year for suicide than all other causes, that is wars, murders, and so on. So humanity, Homo sapiens in the 21st century has still got a long way to go. As Einstein said, the significant problems we have created cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. If you woke up 100% healthy, how would you know? I've used that question to define what is optimum health. It means having optimum physical function. You can climb a mountain, or at least climb the stairs. Optimum psychological and relational function. You have good relationships, a good social support network. You have good mood and good mind and good memory. You have optimum chemical function. You don't have raised homocysteine levels or cholesterol levels or poor liver function tests. And you have optimum connection to other people, to the bigger meaning or purpose in life, and also to the earth and animals. And of course, you want all of this. You want the absence of ill health, signs and symptoms, and you want all of this for as long as possible. That is my definition of optimum health. And as you work through the different sections on my website, you will find out how to create good psychological health, good physical health, and also good chemical health. And that really is the domain of nutrition, and that's explored in Integral Medicine Part 1, Chemical.